Okay, in a minute we're going to go live.
Should I have Facebook open so I can see feedback and stuff?
You don't have to have Facebook open. It'll just disturb you. Shulamit, can you check if we're on? Okay, we should be on. Yes. So, Sam Glassenberg.
Mel, how are you doing, Mel? It's great to see you.
I'm doing great. We start out with the jingle. And
oh, good. I was hoping there'd be something because you're a musician.
Yeah, and you'll have to excuse my low tech. I'm not like you. I'm not from the Hollywood boys. So you'll have to humor me, as the saying goes. Okay, here we are. Get rid of that, and we are ready to go. We are ready to go. Let's go.
Get a chair, grab a seat, we'll sweep you off your feet. We move, we groove, you got Mel. Ease your legs, rest a while, all you gotta do is smile. We're swell, can't you tell, you got Mel. When the show begins, you better hold on to tight, for before you know it, you'll be high as a kite. Take a break, settle down, we're the only show in town. It's our road, don't you know, you got Mel. Give it up, don't think twice, we're a hurricane on ice. What the hell, give it yell, ring a bell, show and tell. Mademoiselle, give a smell, you got Mel. You got Mel.
And
That
Mel.
was perfect. That was perfect.
Well, thank you. And Mel has Sam. So Sam Z Glassenberg or Sam Z Glassenberg?
Z. Well, that's an interesting question. I am a dual Canadian citizen. So you can go either way.
You're a dual Canadian citizen.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, I'm a citizen of the United States, but I hold dual citizenship with you.
So because we have a lot of people watching from Canada.
Really?
So, yeah, so I'm sure at least two. So I would be really nice if you explained to people how Canadian are you really, eh?
I've not very. My mom is from Winnipeg, and my grandfather was a physician in rural Saskatchewan. And so when I was born, they brought me to the Canadian Embassy in Chicago, and they dipped me in maple syrup, and they said "A, God save the Queen," and now I'm a dual citizen of Canada and the United States. That's all I've got.
Mm-hmm. So we have something in common because Mel was born in Winnipeg.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So we have Winnipeg blood. And another thing that nobody knows is what the Z or Z stands for.
Oh, mine?
Yeah, I don't have a Z in my name.
Oh, do you want to guess, or do you want to?
Zachariah, Zalman, Zvulun.
See, this is when you talk to an Israeli, they can start guessing lots of Z names. Americans are like Zach. After Zach, they've got nothing. It's Zev.
So what's the truth here?
Zev. My middle name is Zev.
Oh, really? I wouldn't have guessed. And Sam, I just let me start out by saying, for someone who was so accomplished at a young age, you are the nicest of people. And you're a real mensch. I think I'm not sure if that's the Canadian in you, but I just wanted to make that clear at the beginning.
I mean, well, you are the definition of mensch.
No.
On so many levels. So it's all the more gratifying to hear it from you. Thank you.
Yeah, but today you've got Mel. You got me. So do you like the Beatles?
I mean, who doesn't?
Okay, so we always start off our interview. What's your favorite Beatles song?
Yellow Submarine.
Okay, can you sing a few words?
But that's only because, I mean, we've been playing a lot of Beatles Rock Band with the kids during quarantine. And they love Yellow Submarine.
And why shouldn't they? It's a Ringo tune.
Of course.
Would you like to sing a few bars for our international audience?
No. I thought we're not supposed to. I've been told singing spreads coronavirus, so we're not supposed to.
Okay, but that's only if you sing a George Harrison song.
Oh, that's why. I've been wondering why the numbers have been going up.
So you're not going to do a few bars of the chorus?
Oh, have you heard me sing? It's terrible.
Everybody can sing, Sam.
We,
Better than Ringo.
Oh, fine. We all live in a yellow submarine, a yellow submarine, a yellow submarine. We all live in a yellow submarine. That's all you're going to get.
Okay, you're actually the first person on the show that agreed to sing.
Really?
Yeah, so that was wonderful. No, you're not. Everybody agrees. So, Sam, a little bit about your life.
You're very convincing, Mel, I imagine.
Your life in 92 seconds.
You can get people to do anything.
No.
I mean, this is my first, I was just saying, this is my first Facebook Live, I think.
Well, you've got Mel. So tell us a little bit about your amazing life.
That's a very broad question. You wanted I've spent my career in the video games business. That's been a lot of fun. I'm happy to tell you anything. I started out my career at working on Star Wars video games at Lucasfilm. So I used to fly spaceships for a living. I moved on to Microsoft. I worked on a game technology platform there. You remember for years, I ran a video game company that was making games for all the big Hollywood movies, like Hunger Games, Mission Impossible, Rocky. Now I run a company that makes video games for doctors.
Yeah, so maybe we should start at the end. I always claim that amazing people like you have a banana factor.
I'm not familiar with this factor.
Yeah, I'm going to explain. That somewhere along the line, somebody didn't believe in Sam Z Glassenberg. And that your outstandingness is part in answer to this person or people who didn't believe in you early on, and to say, I can do it. So who is that person in your life?
The person who didn't believe in me. Yeah. I don't know. I think, look, when it comes to building a company, right, there are hundreds of naysayers, always. Think about raising capital, right? You're going to go and talk to, 100 venture funds, right, to go and get, 3 term sheets. So I don't even, that's not even on the radar. I don't even remember the fund names. I think, and I should say, actually, I don't think I follow this rule. I've had a very supportive family and upbringing, teachers and role models and parents and family members. I will tell you, I think they always had faith in me. I think they felt for a long time that my potential was misplaced.
Oh, you see, I don't even have to ask you questions because you're getting to the questions.
Okay.
So who is Dr. Ray Glassenberg?
Dr. Ray Glassenburg is my father.
Okay.
He's an anesthesiologist.
And he wanted you to be
a doctor.
Okay,
a doctor. And he was flexible on the subspecialty as long as it was, as long as it would be a pretty long fellowship. Look, we talked about my Canadian family, right? So my grandfather was a famous doctor. He was I think he was the chief editor of the Manitoba Medical Journal before he moved to the States to become senior editor at JAMA. My parents are both doctors. My wife is a doctor. Everybody's doctors. I'm the guy who went into video games.
Okay, so
medicine.
Was it your grandfather's name for the record?
Oh, Samuel Vaisro, Dr. Samuel Vaisro.
Okay, we have to look him up because I have also.
I inherited his name.
And I have illustrious medical blood in my family too. So, at what age did you feel that you weren't attracted to physicians?
Well, I'm clearly attracted to physicians because I married one. But the field of medicine. Okay,
yeah, 1-0 for you, Sam. 1-0 for you.
I didn't realize this was a game. I think when you, I don't know what it is. I was very enamored by technology and animation and all of these things. And maybe it's, hearing your parents come home every night and, complaining about the state of medicine in the world at the dinner table. Who knows? I'm not going to psychoanalyze myself.
So you were sitting at the dinner, yeah, but I am. So you were sitting at the dinner table and it was like, boy, did I have an appendix today. You had an appendix. Wait till you hear about my gallbladder.
More or less.
No,
More
but
or less.
how did you get into games and animation and
Oh, this was I've been doing this since high school. So like I think in high school I was like, you know, like Toy Story came out in 1995, like just around then. I think 1994 I started playing around with animation tools, started making like little funny animations for my friends, and it became like a hobby of mine in high school and in college. Because in college I got my degree in computer engineering. Like I didn't get an art degree. I did animation as a hobby, and then I just put together a reel of stuff I had made, and you know, I actually sent it into Lucasfilm because I was applying for a job in the film division. I wanted to work in film special effects, and they offered me a job in the games division. And
Which
so
was
I was
okay
like, yeah,
too.
let's try this out. And then I discovered, oh, these problems are a lot more interesting than what's going on in film. But but yeah, the family sort of always, it wasn't medicine. So, you know, I was a bit the disgrace. There was always okay, but at some point you're just going to give this up and go to medical school. In what was it, 2006?
You accepted an Emmy. You brought an
Right.
Emmy home to the family.
Yeah. So 2006, I accept on behalf of my team at Microsoft. I accepted it on behalf of the team.
Yeah.
A technical Emmy for my team's work pushing the cutting edge of interactive entertainment, because our technology was the technology in every.
Sam, an Emmy is an Emmy is an Emmy.
It's a technical Emmy. It's not the ones they do on TV, but there's still the red carpet. You dress very nice. And so I call my parents, right? To call them, give them some, I'm on the Mel show. So we'll give them some nachas, right? Because I'm going to be walking down the red carpet. And my mother answers the phone. She goes, "You have to tell your father." And my dad, I tell him without skipping a beat, he goes, "Sam, this is very nice, but in this family, we only recognize Nobel Prizes." He goes, "You're not yet 30 years old. You can still go to medical school. I'll pay for it." Which, you know, in the States is a big deal.
So, and now here's the irony of it all. After Stanford and Lucas and Emmy and Microsoft and Cutting Edge, you're going back to work with Daddy.
Oh yeah,
you become a daddy's boy.
Circle. I mean, there's some lesson to be learned here about listening to your parents, or you know,
we're going to get there in a few minutes.
Something. Yeah, I will leave that interpretation to my host and or the audience. So in 2012, my father, he basically gives up and he says, "All right, so if you're going to do the video game thing, at least put it to good use. Make me a game to train my residents to do a fiber optic intubation." He goes,
"You have to speak up, Sam."
Oh, sorry.
13% of my listeners are hard of hearing.
Oh, okay. People can't hear me. Is that what they're?
No, I can't.
Oh, okay. I'm looking at my mic levels. It says they're great. All right. So in 2012, my dad, he goes, so he tells me to go make this game. He goes, "Make me a game to train my colleagues to do a fiber optic intubation." And I don't want to drag them to the simulations. Make me a game that they can just play on their phones. So basically, out of guilt, I'm running a game company at the time. So out of guilt, I sit down for 3 weekends and I make him this terrible little game that I upload to the App Store. And I put it in the App Store simply because I'm too busy, you know, with my day job to install it on his friends' iPhones one by one. So here's a link. They can just download it themselves. I put in like an email address I never check, and here, go for it. I don't think about it again. And then 2 years later, he calls me. He goes, "Oh, Sam, how many people downloaded it?" And I go, I don't know how many of your friends downloaded your game, but I can check for you. And I went and I looked it up, and we had 100,000 doctors, nurses, airway specialists worldwide who'd been playing this thing. It was like
it hadn't been marketed.
No. I had no. So I Googled it. I was like, "What's going on here?" So apparently, they had been doing efficacy studies on this crappy little game at all these medical schools, like around the world. Like they were in China, and they were showing that it was improving physician performance. So at that point, I was like, okay, well, this is interesting. So after my last company was acquired, I said, all right, let's clearly there's demand for something like this, right? Clearly doctors are looking for something that enables them to, train and, and explore difficult and interesting cases and procedures and new techniques and do it on their phones. That was the motivation for starting Level X. And in doing so, right, I really started getting a clearer picture of what is this massive gap between the state of the art and what we're doing in video games and entertainment and the state of the art in healthcare and medical training. And so that was really the motivation for starting the company.
So that's brilliant. And what's the traction today? How big is your company?
I love to say it was brilliant. It was an accident. I would love to say that at the beginning I had this vision.
I'm going to send you, I have a movie on how everything good happens by accident.
Great.
If you speak to inventors and they tell you the truth, right? They invented it. All things are invented by accident. Nobody's dancing.
Well, at least fine. I'm readily willing to admit it.
So what's the status today? What the
status today?
What phone games do you have for physicians? And
I'm happy. I can demo things for you if you want. So we have 600,000 medical professionals playing the games. We have games live right now in cardiology, gastroenterology, pulmonology, and anesthesia. We're working with about half of the top 20 pharma and medical device companies to help them disseminate best practices and new techniques. We're working with major medical societies around the world. Actually, even beyond the world, we announced a substantial grant from NASA's Institute for Space Health.
Because you're a spaceship boy.
One day, maybe.
The sky's not the limit for you.
No, the sky apparently not the limit. So yeah, so we're basically adapting all of this game technology and design to help train astronauts for emergencies on deep space missions as we prepare for the trip to Mars. So NASA basically, their Trish group scoured the Earth, right, to find terrestrial technologies that could be applied for space health scenarios, whether it's devices, training tools, so forth. And they basically were like, they've said this, like they couldn't find anything like Level X that had the level of realism and quality and neuroscience-based design to go and create a platform for training astronauts for medical emergencies.
So Sam, actually, it's kind of funny because these stellar games have come true in a whole different way.
Yeah. Yes. I started out flying spaceships for a living, and now I'm making medical training tools for spaceships for a living.
So and who pays? Who pays for all of these things? The physicians get it for free, right?
Yeah, the big thing for me is I want it to be free for physicians. So I don't like everybody, for not just physicians, but medical professionals worldwide.
Yeah.
Right. And so the business model is sponsorship. So interspersed, you can see it in the game. So interspersed within the content. So you'll open up one of our games. It's filled with dozens of rare, difficult cases that have been submitted by doctors around the country, some of which you can even earn CME for. It's a video game. You can earn continuing medical education credit toward renewing your medical license. Interspersed within the content is sponsored cases. So, you can learn how to dose this specific inhaled anesthetic, or you can literally play as the molecule to understand how this.
So it's not funded by Kellogg's Corn Flakes or Coca-Cola or something.
No. I mean,
No, that was a joke.
When my last company, we did games for Hollywood movies. We had advertising for Corn Flakes.
Product placement.
Exactly. But here it's like, I want to try out, the new video laryngoscope. I want to, we have a game that's played entirely under X-ray where it's interventional cardiology, and you can, upgrade and you can play a bunch of the levels with intravascular ultrasound, where you literally are feeding an ultrasound probe up the arteries into the heart to see what's going on, to look at the plaque from the inside. Now you can play through those levels and see what it's like to do that with that technology, so you can understand the benefits, and you can also understand how to properly use it.
Okay, so and to what extent is it gamified? Do the doctors get rewarded? Do they get little funny hats? And do people make all kinds of sounds? You hear people dying when they went into the wrong vein?
Yeah, so it's I don't know. I feel like gamification is very stigmatized because it's been applied so terribly. Every example that we can think of gamification is taking something that's boring, right? That isn't fun, isn't interesting, isn't interactive. And then we're going to, put a quiz on the end of it. And then we're going to give you a badge for completing the quiz. And quizzes were not fun in the second grade, and they're not fun now. And we didn't invent badges in the games industry. We stole that from the Girl Scouts. So,
or the Boy Cubs.
Right. So this is not the sort of traditional gamification it's silly. I'm talking about real game design, right? I'm talking about understanding, when a doctor is in surgery or treating a patient or trying to diagnose a patient, really distilling what is that challenge and using game mechanics, whether it's puzzle mechanics, whether it's hidden object mechanics, to really help them develop a mental model for what is going on, right? So it's very. I mean, I can plug in. I can show you examples if you want. It's very much focused on design.
This is about you and your life.
Okay, fine.
And
demo. I promise not to demo anything.
We can do a demo day another time.
Okay.
But what
it's your show, Mel.
No, but you're the guest. If you want a demo, you can demo.
No, that's fine. Oh yeah, so that's it. It's using the like real game design, right? The techniques and the mechanics that are keeping a billion people engaged right now, right? And interacting with their friends while they can't be close to each other. It's using these techniques to capture the challenges of the practice of medicine, whether it's like how do I remove the nail from the throat? What angle do I need to come in at? To a clinical challenge of, how do I diagnose that rare or difficult disease? What test should I order?
So Sam,
how do I eliminate the differential diagnoses?
Of all the stuff that you're doing with Level X, what is like the ACE app? What is the game to beat all games? What are you doing that it's very difficult for physicians to learn otherwise?
So we go specialty by specialty, and every specialty has its challenges.
Let's just pick one or two.
We'll go. We can even talk about we actually just launched COVID content across all of our games, I think, except for gastroenterology. So our anesthesia game, which focuses on airway management, pulmonology, and cardiology, we just launched a bunch of COVID content, which captures a lot of the real challenges that doctors are facing with COVID. So one example, you need to manage a COVID airway, right? So we have to put all these patients on the ventilator. It's not like you put a mask on and flip a switch, right? You need to secure their airway. You need to get a tube, right, down the back of their throat, between their vocal cords into the trachea, and you need to do that, and if somebody's, far along on COVID, their lungs might be friable, meaning they could bleed very easily. In the traditional, there are guidelines for how to manage an airway in general, right? But those guidelines, if you use them on a COVID patient, can be very problematic for a few reasons. One, damaged airway can cause trauma. Two, the techniques that you might use will actually aerosolize the virus and spread it to everybody in the room. And so, for example, so we looked at, when COVID hit, we had just a pouring in of demand from our doctors saying, there are all these scenarios. We're always queuing what are the challenging things you're facing? With COVID, it was just whoosh. And so a key area was, how do we manage these patients? And so we looked to say, all right, what guidelines are there? And all we could find were a bunch of disparate PDFs in Italian, because the Italian anesthesia societies were the ones that were dealing with this first. But these guidelines are, in addition to being in Italian, right, it's these complex flow charts that you can't memorize, right? Especially when you're stressed out and sleep deprived, right? Of all these decisions you have to make and all these different, if the patient does this, if this happens, do this, try this 3 times. And so we use game mechanics. So we have a game that we actually developed already that helps you go through these kind of guidelines. You can play through, give me, patient after patient, right? Presenting with different scenarios. And then you go and make the decisions. All right, should I oxygenate the patient with this device or this device? Should I try this or that? And you make the choices, and it tells you, right, what are the consequences of that decision? Oh, good call, you made the right decision. Or, sure, you secured the patient's airway, but by the way, by using the bag by using the bag, you just spread the virus around the room. So try again. And so doctors can actually practice this stuff and gain experience and develop a mental model for what's going on through what we call active learning, right? Instead of just reading about it, you don't really remember very well, actually do it. When you make the wrong decision, red, trigger anxiety, which helps you learn, right? Emotions, we remember things when we have an emotional response, or reward if you do it right. Trigger a dopamine release, secure the neural pathways you just used on the last decision, the last decisions you made, right? Secure that, remember that. And so you're able to practice on, over and over and over again, dozens of patient scenarios, instead of learning the way doctors often learn, which is on live human beings, right? You try it on a patient. Oh, crap, that didn't work.
So then all of this they do on their phones?
Oh, yeah, all on the phone.
It's uncanny.
Yeah, it just runs on your phone. Look, there's more compute power in the device in your pocket than in all the simulations centers in the world 25 years ago.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. Moore's law, these things can do crazy things that they still drop calls. But we have, like our gastroenterology game, we have 3D computational fluid dynamics and soft tissues running on a phone. You can grab, the tissues on the wall of the colon. It's squishy, it bleeds, it glows when you bring it close to the light. I mean, these are things we're only doing in AAA, video games, and now it runs in.
How big is your team?
I think we just passed 100 people.
100 people, and you're doing okay.
We're doing great. Yeah, so we have, it's a team of, we got top game developers from across the industry, folks who've worked on everything from Mortal Kombat to Words with Friends, huge spread. They're working on staff. We have a medical team, biomedical engineers, MDs, and then on top of that, we have over 100 physician advisors that are signed on that we're just working with constantly. All right, where's the challenge? Is this accurate? Where are the interesting cases? Literally they'll stand over an artist's shoulder, or now virtually over Zoom, oh wait, that should bleed more. That should be squishier, make that a little bit redder, just to make sure we get it just right.
So Sam, it's a little bit incredible. I mean, I've known you for over a decade, and I can't remember when you got so excited about what you're doing. And this is all because of a guilt trip that you had with your daddy.
I mean, like I said, like we've said many times before, Jewish guilt is a powerful force.
So now I want to bring this around. We had a discussion about 5 or 6 years ago, I think, and if not, then neither of us remembers that we did it. Why aren't people like you working in education? Why does gaming waste so much time of young kids? And I'm going to be out on the beam of a pirate ship now in some game, and say most games do not edify kids; they waste their time. So why isn't there somebody like you, some Sam Z Glassenberg around, whose daddy is a school teacher?
So okay, so this is a long conversation. Or we'll get into this. So first off, there are not enough, not nearly enough, but there are. I think a big challenge is business model, right? What enabled is business model, right? You can the economic incentives are such that you can make far more money creating a purely entertainment-based game than you can making a game that is educational. And because in the early days, right, we think back when I grew up, it was Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? Games like this that were both entertaining and educational. And I remember my world history from Carmen Sandiego far better than I learned it from what I remember from school, right? Again, same thing, active learning. That we say there's a reason why every 8-year-old in the United States can name 40 Pokemon characters and give you their full backstory, but can't show you where Switzerland is on the map. Games are very, very, very good at education as an indirect consequence of play. And what we're doing at Level X is we're applying those methodologies, right, to help improve skill retention, right, through these game mechanics. And there are attempts to apply this in education. There needs to be more.
But like you say, it turns out to be clunky, and sometimes very didactic.
Yes.
Because there aren't people like you in the industry who are razor sharp and also have a sense of humor and also love humanity. You're right, you can make more money with Candy Crush than you can with an educational game.
No. Well, I mean, look, for it, I actually think you can. I mean, you're creating value for society. So I think there is a way to make money, right? I mean, I think Level X has found a very successful business model, right? But targeting a very high value audience. And so the question is, what are the corresponding business models that will work in education? I mean, there are people doing this. There's like example game. There's a game called Dragon Box, right? It's a puzzle game, and it's this fun puzzle game. You're like moving these, you're trying to balance these little characters, like these little monsters on different sides. It's a fun puzzle game to play. Only at about level 19 do you realize, whoa, oh, this game is teaching me how to balance algebraic equations, right? Because instead of thinking about algebra as a didactic, X goes here, Y goes here, here's what this rule is, here's what that rule is, they just say, well, what if we think about it like a puzzle, right? And then map it that way. And it's far more effective. And so there are people that want to do this. Actually, the example that you gave was the pirate ship, right? So classic pirate game, Assassin's Creed, right? Ubisoft, basically out of altruism, made a version of the Assassin's Creed games, because in order to create these games, right? Assassin's Creed it's a historical game. You go back in time, you're killing people, right? But the environments are incredibly detailed and ornate, right? They do an inordinate amount of research in order to recreate, ancient Israel or the Norse, Viking regions or Renaissance Europe, and they have an educational skew of it where you can play. They take out all the violence, right? You just can explore, right? So literally, what better educational tool for a teacher to use with their class, especially now when everything's remote, to be able to like walk around and the actual ancient Rome, or quote unquote, like the most accurate depiction of Renaissance Europe that we can come up with Da Vinci's studio and everything else made out, animated, interactive, and in incredible detail. So there are attempts at doing this, but the need is still far greater than the solutions that have been delivered. But that's the opportunity for entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm. So somebody needs a daddy who is an educator, and a mistake. That's what you need. A daddy.
I think you need many of them. I think that you need many of them, because there are many challenges. It's across math, STEM, engineering, art, history, economics.
So Sam, I think that now we're coming towards the end. Let's talk about you. So this makes you a very happy person.
Yes, this is the most fun I've ever had.
Exactly. Like,
I'm extreme. Oh yeah, no, life is fantastic. Okay, so I spend all day, right?
Your parents are proud of you. Everybody's proud of you.
But that's okay. This
Sam,
is not.
You're almost a doctor.
Okay, first of all, not almost a doctor. Let's be very, very clear. Not almost a doctor. Do not deal with the stress of having human lives in my hands day in and day out. Right? No, not a doctor. Credit where credit is due. The things that our players do, right, that doctors are doing day in and day out, like that is a different thing, right? The level of investment in education that they make, the dedication to their work, the risks, especially today, that they're putting themselves in,
Sure.
right? Like, I get to sit in my basement all day, make video games, right? I don't have to go and walk into an ER dealing with a bunch of COVID patients because nobody else is going to do it, right? Especially here in the United States early on without proper PPE. So it's there. But I'm enjoying this because it's very fulfilling, right? We get to we see the gaps. we see the challenges that doctors face, and I can go look at the toolbox from the games industry and say, we have a tool for that. We've solved that before. We can fix that, right? And which is incredibly fulfilling. And it's not just for me, but for the dozens of game developers that could work anywhere in the industry, right? They can work on, they could go work on Assassin's Creed, they could go work on Fortnite. Instead, they're here because they're saying, I want to use the skills and the tools, and I want to push my talent to the limit, not just to create entertainment, but to create entertainment that will also provide value to society. But on top of it, I don't have to compromise, because often historically, like you talked about, like when people would go and make educational games, they would cut out all the cool graphics, all the great gameplay, all the music, and it would just be very didactic. And at Level X, we're not doing that. I'm on stage at SIGGRAPH every year with members of my team. SIGGRAPH is like the big special effects conference. We're up on stage with Digital Domain, right? The visual effects studio, NVIDIA, Epic, Unity, like the big video game technology companies. 10 of us demoing our latest stuff on stage. Level X is on stage demoing, hey, here's how we made X-ray work on a phone. Here's how we got, ultra realistic mixing blood working on a phone. Look at this mucus, right? And up on stage demoing it to an audience of 2,500 game developers who've been voting us second or third place out of 10. So like it's fulfilling, but we don't have to compromise at all in terms of the things that I enjoy, which are the technical challenges, the artistic challenges, the design, sort of the neuroscience-based design challenges. So it's fulfilling, it's fun, it's challenging. Couldn't be happier.
It's remarkable. So in closing, something that people don't know about you. What hobby do you have that people
What
like?
hobby do I? Oh, I have so many hobbies.
Okay, name one or two that I don't know about.
I would say I'm trying to think. Well, you've seen, because we've been to events together where there are shows where you show off your hobbies. So, I mean, you've seen I do a lot of 3D printing, but I think you've seen that. I do 3D printing and all sorts of different materials. Animation, but you've seen that too. Gardening. I have a hydroponic rig, so I do gardening.
See, that I didn't know.
That's a thing. I've been playing around a little bit with computational genomics, genetics, figuring out how to accelerate, genomic algorithms. But though that I haven't had a lot of time for. So that's sort of an older hobby. What other hobbies? Just tinkering, making stuff. Yeah, having a good time.
So, Sam, anything you want to say to the television audience here before we say להתראות?
Well, I mean, if you have any medical professionals in the audience, Mel,
yeah,
they feel free to. They should go to just search for Level X in the App Store, Level space EX. You can go to our website, levelx.com. Check out our games, download them. Earn CNA.
They're free.
Yeah, of course. And give us feedback. Fun. Yeah, exactly. And we're always looking for interesting cases. So
mucus,
actually,
I will tell you that the mucus on your apps looks more real than real mucus, and the blood in your apps looks more bloody than real blood.
That is, to get that endorsement from you, Mel. This is because Mel, your blood and mucus.
No, actually, I spent my career smelling people. I keep thinking.
Oh, right, the smelling thing.
Yeah,
we can't recreate that. I cannot recreate the smell.
Because people now are asking me to smell them in this COVID thing, and I send them to other people that I don't.
Yeah,
like.
That is a hazardous hobby. That's a hobby I think you should put a pause on.
I'm sending them to people I don't like so much.
But there you go. But in terms of your audience, if there are doctors in your audience, I assume they're going to be forward thinking. Right, like you're going to have a forward-thinking audience, and those are the kinds of doctors we're always looking for to give us feedback, to give us ideas, to give us cases. Right, like, oh, here's a case I encountered in the operating room that was once in a lifetime, very rare. Here's how I approached it. That's exactly what we're looking for, because we want to capture that as a video game level that we can disseminate to tens of thousands of their colleagues who can try different approaches at the same challenge.
How many millions of dollars does one game take to make?
Oh, it depends. It depends on the game. It's expensive to build, but the advantage that we have is we're able to build it on top of, you know, the hundreds of billions of dollars that have been invested over the last few decades, or even probably more at this point, in video game technology, right? Like, the reason we're able to make this possible is because of all the technology that went into game consoles that eventually makes your way into your phone, that now we can take advantage of, right? In terms of hardware, all the software, all the tools, we can just build on top of the shoulders of giants in the video games industry. We can take advantage of that. And so that enables us to make things that otherwise wouldn't be possible.
So Sam, keep up your incredible stuff. It's very important to say that no animals or people were harmed in the making of this video, or nor in your games.
Quite the opposite, in fact.
Exactly, you're saving.
The idea is fewer patients will hopefully be, fewer patients will be those.
Sam, you are
training.
You're a gamer who's saving lives. You're an animator who's saving people's lives. In Hebrew, we say kol hakavod, and also one of the nicest people I know. So listen, be well, do great things in your basement, and when you get around to curing halitosis, give me a call.
Thank you, Mel. Wonderful being on the show, and always a pleasure. You're a true mensch, and thank you, and looking forward to continuing the conversation.
Okay, don't forget to share this with the 100,000 physicians. Facebook is going to love me just a little bit more after that. Sam Z Glassenberg, thank you so much.
Thank
and
you.
Oh Canada to you.
Oh Canada, indeed.
Love you, kid.
Love you too, Mel.